Hello everyone, my name is Nitesh and I bring 20 years of B2B sales experience in geographies as varied as India, US, UK, APAC and Australia. My motivation to put together this training package was to stave off some of the pressure that sales guys feel in a highly competitive sales environment. So during the course of this training, I'll be sharing some tricks and tips on how to stave off the pressure, create a robust pipeline, and also how to use different tools to build that pipeline. So without further ado, let's get started. So in this course, before we move forward, I'd just like to quickly touch upon a couple of things. One is the ecosystem and the demographics around digital transformation. Although this training is sort of generic for most sales guys in B2B, but it might be slightly more focused towards sales resources who are, peddling digital transformation solutions. So with that in mind, I just want to touch upon the ecosystem a little bit about the demographics from Indian point of view before I move forward with the training. So with the ecosystem, digital transformation obviously is all set to see exponential growth in the foreseeable future. I would like to compare and draw a parallel to what happened right after the economic downturn in 2008. Until that time, companies were asking organizations to move to cloud. However, everyone sort of put together, made an excuse around security and did not want to move to the cloud. But once the economic downturn came along, all the liquidity vanished from the market, and it just made all the sense to move away from capex and to the opex model. And from then on in, we have seen the kind of growth cloud computing has seen. And something similar has happened with digital transformation with the advent of COVID. Companies were dragging their feet when it came to digital transformation, making one excuse or the other, but they were brutally exposed across industry verticals with the onslaught of COVID. But I think all the lessons have been learned now, and there's a big impetus towards moving on with the digital transformation journey. And so we can foresee a similar growth that what we saw right after cloud computing came along post the economic downturn, and COVID is going to trigger a similar growth for digital transformation, and everyone in the ecosystem is going to benefit. In order to cater to such a large requirement that one foresees, India is best placed to sort of cater to the requirement because of our very large English-speaking software professionals that's going to answer the request for the talent supply chain. So with that covered, let's now quickly move on with the training. So in this training, I'm going to discuss the following topics. One would be how to write effective emails that sort of elicit a favorable response from the stakeholders. What is a good subject line to use? And I would introduce you to a three-step email writing procedure that brings in maximum responses. Second would be how to use effective calling script. If and when you do indulge in making some cold calls, what's the best way to book a meeting or a demo or a POC? So we're going to talk about the introduction and the pitch and the call to action that goes with it. Next, we will discuss how to utilize newsletters, LinkedIn newsletters in particular, as well as survey forms, how newsletters can actually help us create leads, as well as how we can actually harvest subscribers from newsletters for our webinars and also to generate leads. We'll also look at how survey forms can be conversation starters. In this training, we will also focus on how to utilize business model canvas to generate opportunities. So now that I have talked about the topics I'm going to cover, let's move on to the very first one. And we will start off with writing, effective cold calls, making effective cold calls, and writing compelling email. As I had alluded to earlier, I have put together a three-step process that makes it very easy for even the rookie to make himself very, very productive in his sales ecosystem. So the three-step process involves invoking competition as a first step. Second step would be listing the benefits that the competition enjoys as a result of implementing your offering, whether it's a product or a service. And third step is call to action. So I'll try to explain the three-step illustrated with an example. Imagine you receiving a call from a salesperson who's selling you a course on blockchain. There's a high chance you might just reject the offer being made. If, however, the same salesperson calls you and say, hey, there is a course on blockchain that your friend ABC is doing, and that has resulted in him getting a hike of about 20% or 30% in his salary. So all of a sudden there's FOMO that comes in, fear of missing out, that your competition is going to get ahead in the rat race. And so all of a sudden you start asking all kinds of buying questions, like what's the duration of the course, what's the cost of the course, can you do it during the weekend or not. So what invoking competition does is it just elicits the right response from the prospect. And we are going to apply the same logic in our B2B conversations. So invoking competition, listing the benefits, and call to action. And we're going to see how we can do that in our reach outs. So first of all, let's look at the cold calling script. This is a script that I've written. I'll just go through it. It's like, hi ABC, I hope you're having a good day. My name is Nitesh, and I'm calling you from ABC Infotech. We recently implemented our solution at PQR Enterprises. Now, here you can see we recently implemented our solution at PQR Enterprises. Basically is invoking competition, and that's what gets the attention of the prospect. And then we follow it up by mentioning the benefit. And we say, and as a result, their productivity went up by X%. So we invoke competition, then we listed the benefit that the competition enjoys as a result of implementing the solution. And then the third step here is call to action. I was wondering if you would be interested in a 30-minute consultation demo POC to see how they're benefiting from our solution. So again, this is an illustration of the three-step process that I talked about in the last slide. Invoking competition, listing the benefit, in this case, increase in productivity, and then call to action. So in case of calling script, of course, you're going to introduce yourself and the company you're calling from. You're going to invoke competition, you're going to list the benefits, and then there will be call to action. Let's see the same thing with an email now. How to write compelling email messages that would elicit favorable response. So in email, of course, subject line becomes very important. So in this case, if you can see, even without giving away the name of the company, I have still invoked competition by saying German medical equipment manufacturer achieves simplified manufacturing and billing process with SAP implementation. As you can imagine, this would go to a lot of the prospects would be German medical equipment manufacturers. And anybody who is managing their ERP implementation would be interested in knowing about this. So when it comes to email, right with the subject line itself, I have invoked competition. Now let's come to the body of the email. So I make a quick introduction. Hi, ABC. For a German medical equipment manufacturer using phantom assemblies and establishing logical processes, we optimize inventory costs, blah, blah, blah. So here I have just, again, invoked competition, the body. And then what I've done is I've listed the benefits. So the first one being slash down and optimize the inventory cost. Manager was able to use information to control hourly operations, labor time, MRPs, process and document purchase data, reports and other easily structured presentations. So as you can see, I've listed the benefits. The reason we do that is people are able to consume listicles a lot more easily than articles. So imagine somebody sends you an email which talks about how to reduce belly fat, for instance, and it's in an article format. There's a good chance you might just ignore that email. If, however, the same email is sent with the subject line 5 ways to reduce body fat or belly fat, so as soon as it's in the form of listicles where number 5 comes into play and there are 5 ways in which you can do it, that just enhances the chance of you consuming that information a lot more. So we try to use the same psychology. We want people to consume our information, and so when we list the benefits, we do it in the list format as opposed to in an article format. And finally, it's the call to action again. So I certainly believe this would be worth your time, which is why I'm hoping you can share a few time slots for a call. I look forward to hearing from you. So again, it's a 3-step procedure. Invoke the competition right at the start of the subject line itself. We listed the benefits and the call to action in terms of asking for a time slot. So this pretty much does it for the email. Now let's move on to LinkedIn scripts. So as you know, LinkedIn has become very important in terms of reaching out to and making B2B conversations. As far as LinkedIn Navigator is concerned, if you're going to invest in LinkedIn Navigator, you can probably send out 40-50 in-mails, as they like to call the emails, every month. And so you want to use that judiciously, of course. But the script format is going to be pretty much the same. The screenplay is going to be the same. Invoke competition, list the benefits, and then call to action. So you can pretty much copy paste the email format here for in-mail. If, however, if you're trying to make a connection with a stakeholder, there's an option for a connection note, which has 300 character limit. So this is where creative writing comes into play. Back in the day, when Twitter first came in, you had 240 characters to sort of, articulate what you wanted to say. And so you have 300 characters here, and you have to ensure that you follow the 3-step procedure. So over here, if you see hi first name, our blockchain solution for supply chain implemented at ABC Industries takes care of provenance, immutability, paperless payment, regularity, compliance, etc. Would you like a 45-minute consultation over Zoom? So you have to be creative, use 300 characters, and within the connection request itself, you can make a pitch. Again, here, ABC Industries, that's invoking competition. Listicles in form of the benefits 1, 2, 3, and 4 just makes it very easy to consume. And then call to action, where I've asked for a 45-minute consultation over Zoom. So this is how you can actually also create a good pipeline. In fact, I've been very successful. Quite a big deals have come through just through a connection note, which is written with a little bit of creativity and making sure that it's easy to consume and still gives enough information to whet the appetite of the stakeholder. So that's the LinkedIn scripts. Let's now move on to how to create the collaterals. When it comes to the emails, the LinkedIn scripts, and of course all the connection requests and the note that you send, where are you going to get the materials for that? So you can typically get that from a case studies. Case studies are publicly available, as well as it could be a knowledge base that you have created, your company might have created, and so you have to look around, ask your pre-sales team to provide you, and of course you can also search online. It's the stories that sell, and case stories are a great way to bring out those stories. So whenever you run into a case study, you have to look at 3 things in a case study. The very first thing is, what was the solution that was pitched in the case study. The second thing you got to look out for is the benefits that were drawn and who were the decision makers. So three things: what solution was pitched, because you need to understand, what is it that you're selling, and so that will, open your mind to who would be your potential buyers. What are the benefits that were enjoyed as a result of implementing the particular solution, and who were the decision makers, because these are the guys you have to go after, in the same industry vertical. So once you have ascertained those three information, these are things you can do after consuming the case study. Figure out the business vertical in which the solution was sold. So it could be banking, manufacturing, life sciences, pharmaceuticals, whatever might be the case, whatever is the target industry. In the case study, you will find which industry vertical this is going to fly. Second would be, you can pull out data of similar stakeholders from ZoomInfo, LinkedIn, etc. So these stakeholders for digital transformation, it's chief digital officer, chief information officer, could be digital transformation heads. So you pull out information from ZoomInfo and LinkedIn, and then you can share the success story in the form of email, in-mail, or a connection note. Like I showed in the last 3 slides, how to put that together. Whether you're reaching out to them on the phone, or you're dropping an email or a connection note, or indeed on LinkedIn in-mail, just use a case study for the material that you require to put together a story that you can send across. From here on in, let's quickly move on to LinkedIn newsletters. So newsletter is something that LinkedIn introduced about a year ago. This is a great way to advertise the solution, talk about your organization's capability in delivering a solution, attract the right kind of audience. So you can choose a topic close to your heart and something that your organization has its strengths in, and then you can publish a newsletter on LinkedIn based on your appetite to write. You can have the frequency weekly or monthly. Always choose quality over quantity. So I would say go monthly. Just do a lot of research online and just make it very compelling and something that people will love to read, that would enhance their knowledge. Because insightful newsletters, they attract the relevant stakeholders as subscribers now, and you can always then go ahead and generate meetings, POCs, demos, etc. from your subscribers. So you can farm the subscribers and do that. So here is, I put together a newsletter myself. I have, as you can see, 366 subscribers. So I can go and send one-on-one messages to them and thank them for subscribing to my newsletter, and then send more information related to the topic. You can share a video link or a case study, or invite for a meeting, depending upon what you think would be the best way to move forward. You can connect with all the people who have subscribed to your newsletter, and then you can actually go ahead and create a group as well if you like on LinkedIn. Invite everyone in the group and say, hey, this group, I'm going to populate more information about the relevant topic. So this is very useful when you're trying to put together an audience for your webinar, or as I said, you're going to go one-on-one and make a pitch for relevant solutions. With this, let's now move on to how to conduct a successful webinar. So for a successful webinar, you of course have to choose a burning topic, shortlist speakers in the format, and then you can gather participants, as I alluded to earlier, from newsletters, subscribers, LinkedIn groups for a higher footfall. And for a B2B webinar, even if you get 15 or 20 people, that's a pretty good number of people attending your webinar, because typically, for instance, some of the sales that I did, the average deal size is about $500,000. So even if you can convert one out of the webinar, that's still a good return on investment if the deal size is big. So in B2B, it's not about very large numbers, but about the quality and the right stakeholders. If you can attract them and put together a very compelling webinar that sort of ensures that they make the most of their time, something that they would appreciate. Typically, webinars should be for an hour, where the first 10 minutes can be utilized for introduction, 30 minutes for the webinar itself, and the final 20 minutes for Q&A. If the webinar is well rehearsed, I think it makes for a compelling case for people to pay attention. We have very short attention spans today, so it's important that we have a sort of a cut to the chase attitude when we are conducting these webinars. For the success of that particular webinar and the future webinars that you want to conduct, you want good word of mouth to go out in the ecosystem. After the webinar, let's just focus on model canvas. Business model canvas is something that I ran into recently, and this was put together by Alex Osterwalder. I feel that this is a great way to elicit a response from the relevant stakeholders. As you can see, this has got 9 boxes. Each box has a different parameter. So one says key partners, it's key activities, value proposition, customer relationships, customer segments, channels, key resources, cost structure, and revenue. And I actually filled this out for a grocery delivery company. So for a grocery delivery company, the key partners are the grocery stores and the delivery boys and girls. The key activities that they undertake is taking online orders, hiring delivery personnel, so on and so forth. The key resources they need is the tech stack platform, grocery store partners, delivery persons. Similarly, the channels they use would be the website and apps, iOS or Android, taking orders and offer customer service. The customer segments they cater to: people who don't want to carry heavy grocery, people interested in discounts and offers, people who are new to the locality, don't want to go and survey the market for grocery, people who don't know the local dialect and so want to order online. And for the grocery shop, that lack delivery person, they want to cater to a larger geographical region and lack ability to take online orders. It's a win-win for them as well. So as you can see, for any industry vertical, the kind of business they might be in, you can actually populate this 9 boxes that you see with relevant information. Once you have put that together, you can actually go to your pre-sales team and ask them for which of these boxes they have a relevant solution that might be, of importance to companies in that industry vertical. So you ask them if they have something for channels around customer service, or they can help with the cost structure, or any of the other key activities. And what you do then is just go ahead and write to a relevant stakeholder and say, hey, I took time to put this together for you, and by the way, for the following segments, we do have a couple of solutions that might be of importance to you. And so what this does is just shows your sincerity in terms of putting in the work and how desperate you are to get their business. Generally, people appreciate that kind of hard work that goes in, and it's only the first time that you have to do the hard work, because in the same industry vertical, pretty much all the segments would be the same with minor adjustments. So I don't think too many stakeholders would receive such kind of email where the sales guy has spent some time to put together the business model canvas, and then the solutions that they might have for different segments that make up the model canvas, and then that, I'm pretty sure, would elicit a favorable response. So this is another thing that you can do in order to build a robust pipeline. From here, let's move on to survey forms. Survey forms are another great way to gauge the pulse of the audience, potential buyers. Cleverly crafted survey forms can help in putting together compelling positions in the prospect ecosystem. So this is a digital transformation survey where the question is, what is the single biggest challenge in your digital transformation journey? Finding the right vendors, choice of platform, others. And another question is, who's primarily responsible to bring about digital transformation in your organization? Is the CTO, CDO, digital transformation head? So you can actually put together these relevant questions. It can be done in Office 365 forms as well as Google Forms. And you can have the responses here. And based on the responses, you can then have follow-up questions and see if that opens up opportunities for you. It just boils down to what kind of questions you can frame. If the questions aim at the pain points that a lot of the stakeholders are facing, the chances of getting a response is much higher, as opposed to a very generic question, then people quickly lose interest in that. So again, creative writing and understanding of the challenges in the ecosystem goes a long way in forming and framing the right kind of questions. Okay then, so from survey forms, we now move on to weekly to-do list for high productivity. So I've just, put together 4 or 5 things you can do every week that will really help you stave off pressure that you feel being part of the sales team and having to go through reviews. So one of the things you need to do is consume 1 case study a week, create an email and LinkedIn collaterals. It actually does 2 things for you. You enhance your knowledge about the ecosystem, about a solution that works in the ecosystem, and then actually provides you the material to put together an effective email, as opposed to sending out generic emails. You can have a story that you can tell your prospects. Second thing is collaborate with account executives. So in case you are working with OEMs like Microsoft or Salesforce or Appian or Pegasystems, any of those OEMs, they have their sales teams of their own called account executives. You can try to co-sell with them, work on some of their top and bench accounts, create some opportunities for them. And what happens is, if they find that you're sincere in doing that, there would be opportunities where there might be a query coming in from the customer and they can put you in front of the customer, or if there is a particular opportunity that's closing but there is not an existing partner who's attached to that deal, then you might get lucky in that case as well. So these are all things that actually helps you in building a good pipeline. LinkedIn invites, as I said, with connection notes, you can send 10 or 15 LinkedIn invites, and the ones that don't get accepted, you can always withdraw them. Lastly, spend time on Navigator homepage engaging with saved leads. So with the LinkedIn Navigator, you get a chance to save your relevant stakeholders. So you can just go in, apply the right filters. So let's say you want to go after chief digital officers in the BFSI vertical in New Jersey. You can apply those filters and then save all those chief digital officers on LinkedIn. What happens then is, when you go to the home page of your Navigator, your timeline is populated with whatever they have said in the last 24 hours or the past week. What you can do then is you can get into their radar by just liking, commenting on their posts. And if you feel that there's a particular solution that they're looking for, you can certainly put in a comment that would sort of help them, or send in a LinkedIn connection request. People might forget their marriage anniversaries, but they never forget who has liked it and commented on their post. Because every time somebody likes your post, there's a dopamine release in your brain, and it is very addictive. So use that to your advantage. Like and comment on people you are after, but don't send them any irrelevant information. If you really feel at an opportune time you have a good solution up your sleeve that would be beneficial to them, by all means go ahead and send that out, and lo and behold, you will find yourself getting a meeting or having them on a webinar. It's quite a regular occurring when it comes to my own sales process. With that, I come to a conclusion about this sales training. I hope this was useful. If you have any questions, you can put that down in the comment section. But more importantly, you can always write to me, nitesh2780@hotmail.com. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Happy selling, guys. Have a wonderful rest of the day.